John was a simple man. He worked a simple job, lived in a simple apartment, and had a simple life. But one day, everything changed. It was a warm summer evening, and John was walking home from work when he saw a cat sitting on a fence. The cat was staring at him intently, and its eyes were glowing a strange emerald green. John felt a sudden urge to speak to the cat. "Hello," he said. "How are you?" To his surprise, the cat spoke back. "I'm fine," it said. "My name is Whiskers. What's yours?" John was stunned. He couldn't believe that he was talking to a cat. But there was no doubt about it. Whiskers was talking to him. John told Whiskers his name, and they chatted for a while. John learned that Whiskers was a stray cat, and that he had been living in the neighborhood for a few weeks. John also learned something else. He could talk to other animals. He tried it with a dog, a bird, and a squirrel, and they all spoke back to him. John was overjoyed. He had always loved animals, and now he could finally communicate with them. John spent the next few weeks getting to know the animals in his neighborhood. He learned about their lives, their problems, and their dreams. He also learned that the animals were in danger. Humans were destroying their habitats, hunting them, and polluting their environment. John knew that he had to do something to help. He decided to use his ability to talk to animals to help protect them. He began by speaking to the animals in his neighborhood, warning them about the dangers they faced. He also started a campaign to raise awareness about the plight of animals. John's work was not easy. He faced many challenges, but he never gave up. He knew that the animals needed him, and he was determined to help them. One day, John was walking through the forest when he came across a group of loggers. The loggers were cutting down trees, destroying the homes of many animals. John knew that he had to stop them. He walked up to the loggers and began to talk to them. He told them about the animals they were harming and the damage they were doing to the environment. The loggers were skeptical at first, but John's words eventually got to them. They realized that they were wrong, and they agreed to stop logging the forest. John was proud of himself for saving the forest and the animals that lived there. But he knew that there was still more work to be done. He vowed to continue using his ability to talk to animals, to help protect them and their environment. John's discovery that he could talk to animals changed his life in both positive and negative ways. On the positive side, he was able to connect with animals on a deeper level than ever before. He learned about their lives, their problems, and their dreams. He was able to use his ability to help animals and protect them from humans. He warned them about dangers, helped them find food and shelter, and stopped humans from harming them. He found a new sense of purpose and meaning in his life. He realized that he was making a difference in the world by helping animals. On the negative side, John had to keep his ability a secret from his family and friends. This was difficult and isolating for him. He was often put in danger by his work. He had to confront poachers, loggers, and other people who were harming animals. He sometimes felt overwhelmed by the responsibility of protecting all of the animals in the world. He knew that he couldn't save everyone, and this sometimes made him feel helpless. Despite the challenges, John was grateful for his ability to talk to animals. He knew that he was making a difference in the world, and that was all that mattered. Here is a short poem about how John's discovery changed his life. John's discovery. John's life was simple, plain, and clear. Until one day, he discovered something rare. He found he could speak to animals, and their words filled him with wonder and awe. At first, he was afraid to tell, but soon he realized he had a spell. He could help the animals in need and protect them from greed. But his newfound ability came at a cost. He had to keep it a secret, no matter what. He faced danger and isolation, but his passion for animals was his inspiration. John's life was changed forever by his gift to communicate with animals, whatever. He found purpose and meaning in his new role and became a protector of the animal soul. John's newfound ability to talk to animals was a gift, but it was also a curse. He had to learn to control his ability quickly, or he could face dire consequences. If John's secret got out, he would be in danger. People would be afraid of him, and some might even try to hurt him. He could also be used by others who wanted to exploit his ability for their own gain. John's newfound ability to talk to animals was a gift, but it was also a curse. He had to learn to control his ability quickly, or he could face dire consequences. If John's secret got out, he would be in danger. People would be afraid of him, and some might even try to hurt him. He could also be used by others who wanted to exploit his ability for their own gain. John also had to be careful not to let his ability interfere with his life. He couldn't be constantly talking to animals, or he would never get anything done. He had to learn to balance his new ability with his normal life. Here is a short passage that establishes the stakes of the story. John's dilemma. John realized that he had a choice to make. He could either keep his ability a secret and use it to help animals, or he could tell the world and risk the consequences. He knew that the second option was too dangerous. He couldn't risk being hurt or used by others. He also didn't want to be a celebrity or a freak show. He just wanted to live a normal life and help animals in any way he could. So John decided to keep his ability a secret. He vowed to use it wisely and carefully. He knew that the stakes were high, but he was determined to make a difference in the world. John's journey would be challenging, but he was up for the task. He knew that the future of the animals depended on him. John struggled to keep his ability to talk to animals a secret from his family and friends. He was constantly afraid that he would slip up and say something in front of the wrong person. One day, John was having dinner with his parents. He was telling them about his day at work, but his mind was on the animals. He had just learned that a group of developers were planning to build a new housing complex on a forest that was home to many animals. John was worried about the animals, but he didn't want to tell his parents about his ability. He knew that they wouldn't believe him, and he didn't want to risk them thinking he was crazy. So, what are the animals saying about the new housing complex? John's father asked jokingly. John froze. He had almost slipped up. I don't know, he said quickly. I haven't talked to them about it yet. John's father laughed. Just kidding, he said. But seriously, what do you think about the new housing complex? John took a deep breath. I think it's a bad idea, he said. The forest is home to many animals, and they will be displaced if the housing complex is built. But the housing complex will bring jobs and tax revenue to the community, John's mother said. It's a necessary sacrifice. John sighed. He knew that his parents were right. The housing complex would benefit the community, but it would also harm the animals. He didn't know what to do. John left dinner feeling frustrated and conflicted. He wanted to tell his parents about his ability, but he was afraid of what they would think. He didn't know how to balance his need to keep his secret with his need to protect the animals. John struggled to keep his ability a secret for many weeks. He felt like he was living a double life. He couldn't be honest with the people he loved most, and it was taking a toll on him. One day, John was walking home from work when he saw a group of teenagers throwing rocks at a bird. The bird was trapped in a tree, and it was too scared to come down. John couldn't just stand by and watch. He knew that he had to do something. He took a deep breath and walked over to the teenagers. "Hey," he said, "leave the bird alone." The teenagers turned to look at John. They were bigger and stronger than him, but John didn't back down. "Why don't you mind your own business?" one of the teenagers said. "It's my business when people are hurting animals," John said. The teenagers laughed. "What are you going to do about it?" one of them asked. John closed his eyes and concentrated. He spoke to the bird in a calm voice. "It's okay," he said. "I'm here to help you." The bird stopped fluttering its wings and looked at John. It seemed to understand what he was saying. John opened his eyes and turned to the teenagers. "Step aside," he said. The teenagers hesitated for a moment. Then they stepped aside. John walked over to the tree and held out his hand. The bird flew down and landed on his hand. John gently carried the bird away from the teenagers and released it into the woods. John watched the bird fly away, feeling a sense of relief. He had finally used his ability to help an animal, and it felt good. John knew that he couldn't keep his secret forever. He would eventually have to tell his family and friends about his ability. But for now, he was content to use his ability to help animals in secret. As John began to use his ability to talk to animals, he began to learn more about their world and the dangers that they face. He learned about the animal struggles to find food and shelter, the threats they faced from predators and humans, and the devastating effects of pollution and climate change. John also learned about the animals' resilience and their deep connection to the natural world. He was inspired by their courage and their determination to survive. John realized that he had a responsibility to use his ability to help animals in any way he could. He began to speak out against the dangers that animals face, and he worked to raise awareness about the importance of protecting the environment. One day, John was walking through the forest when he came across a group of loggers. The loggers were cutting down trees, destroying the homes of many animals. John approached the loggers and spoke to them about the damage they were doing. He told them about the animals that were losing their homes and the impact that deforestation was having on the environment. The loggers were skeptical at first, but John's words eventually got to them. They realized that they were wrong, and they agreed to stop logging the forest. John was proud of himself for saving the forest and the animals that lived there. But he knew that there was still more work to be done. He vowed to continue using his ability to talk to animals to help protect them and their environment. Another time, John was walking through the park when he saw a group of children playing with a baby bird. The children were tossing the bird around like a toy, and they were clearly hurting it. John approached the children and told them to stop. He explained that the bird was a living creature and that they were hurting it. The children were reluctant at first, but John eventually convinced them to let the bird go. The bird flew away, chirping gratefully. John was relieved that he had been able to save the bird, but he was also saddened by the fact that the children had been so cruel. It reminded him of the many ways in which animals are mistreated by humans. John knew that he had a lot to learn about the world of animals and the dangers that they face, but he was determined to use his ability to help animals in any way he could. John's journey was just beginning, but he was already making a difference in the world. He was a voice for the animals, and he was helping to raise awareness about the importance of protecting their habitat and their lives. As John continued to learn about his ability to talk to animals, he discovered that he was not alone. He met other people who had the same gift, and they formed a secret support group. The group met regularly to share their experiences, offer each other support, and discuss how they could use their abilities to help animals. John was grateful to have found a community of people who understood him. He learned a lot from the other members of the group, and he was inspired by their dedication to helping animals. One day, John and the other members of the support group learned about a group of poachers who were killing elephants for their ivory. The poachers were operating in a remote area of Africa, and they were difficult to track down. John and the other members of the support group decided to use their abilities to help stop the poachers. They traveled to Africa and spoke to the animals in the area. The animals told them where the poachers were hiding and what their plans were. John and the other members of the support group were able to use this information to track down the poachers and stop them. They also rescued several elephants that were being held captive by the poachers. John was proud of himself and the other members of the support group for what they had accomplished. He knew that they had made a difference in the lives of the elephants, and he was determined to continue using his ability to help animals in need. John's work with the support group was dangerous and challenging, but it was also rewarding. He knew that he was making a difference in the world, and that was all that mattered. John is tasked with a mission by the other animal talkers to help a group of animals who are being hunted by humans. John was honored and humbled when the other animal talkers tasked him with this mission. He knew that it would be dangerous, but he was determined to help the animals. John traveled to the forest where the animals were being hunted. He met with the animals and learned about their situation. The animals told him that a group of hunters were tracking them and killing them for their fur and meat. John knew that he had to act quickly. He spoke to the animals and devised a plan. The animals would lead the hunters away from their homes, and John would use his ability to talk to the animals to guide them to safety. The plan worked perfectly. The animals led the hunters on a wild goose chase, and John was able to guide them to a safe haven. The animals were grateful to John for saving their lives. They knew that they could always count on him for help. John continued to work with the animals to protect them from the hunters. He also worked to raise awareness about the plight of animals and the importance of protecting them. John knew that he couldn't save all of the animals in the world, but he was determined to make a difference. He was a hero to the animals, and he was making the world a better place for them. Here is a poem about John's mission. John's mission, John, the animal talker, on a mission to save the hunted from the hunter's cruel laughter. He spoke to the animals and learned of their plight, their hearts filled with fear and fright. John devised a plan to lead the hunters astray and guide the animals to safety. Through the forest they ran, with John at their side, their savior, their guide. The hunters were fooled, and the animals were safe, thanks to John the brave. John's mission was a success. He saved the animals from harm and brought them back to their calm. A hero to the animals he is, John, the animal talker, with a heart that's always full of laughter. John knew that he had to use his ability to communicate with the animals to help them to safety. He couldn't just stand by and watch them be hunted. He approached the group of animals and spoke to them calmly. He told them that he knew about the hunters and that he wanted to help. The animals were hesitant at first, but they eventually trusted John. They told him about the hunters' plans and where they were hiding. John used this information to develop a plan to help the animals escape. He spoke to each animal individually and gave them instructions on what to do. The next day, the hunters arrived in the forest. They began to track the animals, but the animals were ready for them. They followed John's instructions and were able to evade the hunters. The hunters were furious. They couldn't believe that the animals had outsmarted them. They searched the forest for days, but they couldn't find the animals. The animals were safe, thanks to John's help. They were grateful to him for saving their lives. John continued to help the animals in the forest. He protected them from the hunters and taught them how to survive in the wild. He became a friend and protector to the animals. John's ability to communicate with animals was a gift. He used it to help the animals and to make the world a better place. He was a true hero. Here is a poem about John's bravery. John the brave, with a heart so kind, the animals' protector, their savior to find. When the hunters came, with guns in hand, John stood his ground. Bravely he did stand. He spoke to the animals, calmed their fear, and led them to safety, far and near. The hunters were outsmarted, their plans in vain. Thanks to John the brave, the animals were safe again. John's courage and kindness knew no bounds. A true hero to the animals he was found. So let us all raise a glass to John the brave, the animals' protector, the one who saved. As John continued his journey to help animals, he learned more about himself and his own strength. He realized that he was capable of more than he ever thought possible. He learned that he was brave, compassionate, and resourceful. He also learned that he had a strong sense of justice and a deep desire to help others. John's journey was not without its challenges. He faced many dangers and setbacks along the way, but he never gave up. He learned from his mistakes and grew stronger from them. One of the biggest challenges that John faced was his own self-doubt. He often wondered if he was good enough to help the animals. He also worried about what others would think of him if they knew about his ability. But John eventually learned to overcome his self-doubt. He realized that he didn't have to be perfect to help others. He just had to be brave and willing to try. John also learned that he was not alone. He had the support of the other animal talkers and of the animals themselves. He knew that he could always count on them for help. John's journey was a transformative one. He learned more about himself and his own strength. He also learned the importance of courage, compassion, and perseverance. Here is a poem about John's journey of self-discovery. John's journey. John the animal talker, on a journey to find his true self, his strength of mind. He faced many challenges along the way, but never gave up, come what may. He learned to be brave, compassionate, and wise, with a heart full of love and open eyes. Through helping the animals, he found his own worth, a true hero, born from the earth. So let us all learn from John's journey, to find our own strength and to never be weary. John knew that he couldn't just stand by and watch the humans hunt the animals. He had to confront them and try to stop them. He found the group of hunters and approached them cautiously. He didn't want to startle them, but he also didn't want to seem afraid. "Why are you hunting these animals?" John asked. The hunters were surprised to see John. They weren't used to people coming into the forest to confront them. "It's none of your business," one of the hunters said. "We're just doing what we have to do." "But you're killing these animals for no reason," John said. "They're innocent creatures." "They're just animals," another hunter said. "They don't have any rights." "That's not true," John said. "All creatures have rights. They have the right to live and to be free from harm." The hunters laughed. "You're crazy," one of them said. "You're talking about animals as if they were people." "But they are people," John said. "They have their own thoughts and feelings. They feel pain and fear just like we do." The hunters didn't believe John. They thought he was just a crazy animal lover. But John didn't care. He knew that he was right. "I'm warning you," John said. "If you don't stop hunting these animals, I'll make sure that everyone knows what you're doing." The hunters looked at each other. They knew that John was serious. They also knew that he could make a lot of trouble for them. "Fine," one of the hunters said. "We'll stop hunting these animals, but only if you promise not to tell anyone about what you saw here today." John agreed. He didn't want to put himself in danger, but he also didn't want to see the animals get hurt. The hunters left the forest, and John was relieved. He had saved the animals, and he had done it without violence. John knew that he couldn't stop all of the hunting in the world, but he also knew that he had made a difference. He had saved the lives of a group of animals, and he had shown the hunters that there were people who cared about the animals and who were willing to stand up for them. Here is a poem about John's confrontation with the hunters. John's confrontation. John stood before the hunters with courage in his heart to play his noble part. "Why do you hunt these creatures?" he asked with steadfast eyes. "Their innocence defies." The hunters laughed and jeered, their hearts devoid of grace. But John stood firm in place. "All creatures have their rights," he said with voice so clear. "Their pain and fear revere." The hunters faltered, unsure, for John's words stung so true, and conscience pierced anew. "We'll stop," they said at last, "but only if you swear to keep our secret there." John nodded, wise and strong. His victory complete. For animals he fought. A hero, true and bold, John stood for what was right and brought forth shining light. John tried to reason with the hunters, but they were determined to kill the animals. They didn't care about the animals' feelings or their right to live. They just wanted to kill them for their own sadistic pleasure. John was heartbroken. He couldn't believe that people could be so cruel. He didn't know what to do. He tried to convince the hunters that the animals were just as important as humans. He told them that the animals had families and friends who would miss them if they were killed. He also told them that the animals played an important role in the ecosystem and that killing them would have a negative impact on the environment. But the hunters didn't listen. They just laughed at John and told him to mind his own business. John realized that there was no point in trying to reason with the hunters. They were too far gone. He knew that he had to do something else to save the animals. He decided to use his ability to talk to animals to help them escape. He spoke to the animals and told them about the hunters' plans. He also told them how to get to safety. The animals were grateful to John for his help. They followed his instructions and were able to escape from the hunters. John was relieved that the animals were safe, but he knew that the hunters would be back. He vowed to continue protecting the animals and to fight against cruelty of all kinds. Here is a poem about John's futile attempt to reason with the hunters. The hunters laughed. "You're crazy," one of them said. "You're talking about animals as if they were people." "But they are people," John said. "They have their own thoughts and feelings. They feel pain and fear just like we do." The hunters didn't believe John. They thought he was just a crazy animal lover. But John didn't care. He knew that he was right. "I'm warning you," John said. "If you don't stop hunting these animals, I'll make sure that everyone knows what you're doing." The hunters looked at each other. They knew that John was serious. They also knew that he could make a lot of trouble for them. "Fine," one of the hunters said. "We'll stop hunting these animals, but only if you promise not to tell anyone about what you saw here today." John agreed. He didn't want to put himself in danger, but he also didn't want to see the animals get hurt. The hunters left the forest, and John was relieved. He had saved the animals, and he had done it without violence. John knew that he couldn't stop all of the hunting in the world, but he also knew that he had made a difference. He had saved the lives of a group of animals, and he had shown the hunters that there were people who cared about the animals and who were willing to stand up for them. Here is a poem about John's confrontation with the hunters. John's confrontation. John stood before the hunters with courage in his heart to play his noble part. "Why do you hunt these creatures?" he asked with steadfast eyes. "Their innocence defies." The hunters laughed and jeered, their hearts devoid of grace. But John stood firm in place. John vowed to continue using his ability to protect the animals and to fight against cruelty of all kinds. He knew that he could make a difference in the world, and he was determined to do so. Here is a poem about John's victory over the hunters, John's triumph. With courage and resolve, John stood against the foe, his heart ablaze with fiery glow. To protect the creatures he loved, he unleashed his mighty power, and the hunters fell, devoured. The animals rejoiced in glee, for John had saved the day and turned the tide of play. With gratitude and praise, the animals hailed their hero, their protector, forever true. John's victory shone bright, a beacon of hope for all, where justice answers the call. So let us all remember John, the animal protector, brave and strong, whose courage led him along. May we be inspired by his might to stand against the darkness and bring forth a brighter starkness. John and the animals were victorious. The hunters were defeated. John and the animals stood together, surveying the scene of their victory. The hunters were lying on the ground, unconscious or dead. The animals were unharmed. John was relieved and proud. He had saved the animals, and he had done it without violence. He had shown the hunters that there were people who cared about the animals and who were willing to stand up for them. The animals gathered around John and thanked him for his help. They nuzzled him and licked his face. John smiled. He knew that he had made a difference in their lives. John and the animals celebrated their victory. They played and danced and sang. They were free from the hunters, and they were safe. John knew that the fight against animal cruelty was not over. But he also knew that he and the animals had made a difference. They had shown the world that animals had rights, and that they deserved to be protected. Here is a poem about John and the animals' victory. Victory. John and the animals stood tall, their victory hard won, their spirits soaring, one and all. The hunters lay vanquished, their cruelty defeated, their darkness now retreated. In harmony and grace, John and the animals rejoiced, their voices raised in rejoice. For freedom had prevailed, and justice had been served, their hearts with hope preserved. A hero, true and kind, John stood among the animals. His spirit forever stands tall. May we all learn from his might to protect the creatures we love and send forth a blessing from above. John was hailed as a hero by the animals. They were grateful to him for saving their lives from the hunters. They followed him wherever he went, and they always looked to him for guidance. John was initially uncomfortable with all of the attention. He didn't want to be seen as a celebrity or a freak show. He just wanted to live a normal life and help animals in any way he could. But John eventually realized that his ability to talk to animals was a gift. He could use it to make a difference in the world and to protect the animals from harm. He also realized that he had a responsibility to use his ability to teach others about the importance of respecting and protecting animals. John began to embrace his new ability. He started talking to people about animal cruelty and about the importance of protecting animals. He also started writing books and articles about animal welfare. John became a leading advocate for animal rights. He traveled all over the world, speaking to people about the importance of protecting animals. He also worked with governments to pass laws that would protect animals from cruelty. John's work made a real difference in the world. He helped to raise awareness about animal cruelty and to promote animal welfare. He was a true hero to the animals, and he will be remembered for his work to protect them. Here is a poem about John embracing his new ability, John's embrace. John embraced his gift with grace. A hero to the animals, he took his place. His voice echoed loud and clear for the creatures he loved so dear. He spoke of their plight and pain and urged the world to refrain from cruelty and greed, for animals have their needs. With passion and conviction, John led the charge to protect the animals from harm. His legacy will forever shine, a beacon of hope divine. So let us all learn from John and embrace the gifts we're given to make the world a better haven. John decided to use his ability to help animals and protect them from humans. He knew that it was a dangerous responsibility, but he was determined to make a difference in the world. John started by talking to the animals in his neighborhood. He learned about their lives, their problems, and their dreams. He also learned about the dangers they faced, such as habitat loss, poaching, and pollution. John realized that he couldn't save all of the animals in the world, but he could make a difference for the ones he knew. He started by helping the animals in his neighborhood find food and shelter. He also helped them to avoid dangerous situations. John also started to speak out against animal cruelty. He wrote letters to the editor and gave speeches about the importance of protecting animals. He also started a campaign to raise awareness about the plight of animals in captivity. John's work was not easy, but he was determined to make a difference. He faced many challenges, but he never gave up. He knew that the animals needed him, and he was willing to risk everything to help them. One day, John was walking through the forest when he came across a group of poachers. The poachers were setting traps for elephants. John knew that he had to stop them. John used his ability to talk to the elephants and warn them about the traps. He also helped the elephants to escape from the poachers. The poachers were furious when they realized that John had helped the elephants to escape. They chased after him, but John was able to outrun them. John knew that the poachers would be back, but he was determined to continue protecting the elephants. He vowed to do everything he could to stop the poachers and to protect the animals from harm. John's story is a reminder that we all have a responsibility to protect animals. We can all make a difference, no matter how small. If we all work together, we can create a world where animals are safe and respected,